Bill, you had a chicken soup for the soul story about a hitchhiker. Would you please tell us about this?
Yeah, I kind of enjoy these kind of stories. These are stories I tell when I'm in a church because they're supernatural, but they're chill producing. In other words, you feel good when you hear them, and it kind of reaffirms your faith in humanity, and it kind of opens your eyes. Back about 20 years ago, I kept having this feeling all week long that somebody was waiting for me, and I had to meet this person, and I had to take care of them. I had no clue what that meant, because I get feelings, sometimes I don't know what they mean. I don't try to interpret them, I just roll with them. And so I go in the doctor's office and I pick up this Guidepost magazine or something, and the first thing I read is, "Beware of strangers amongst us, because they may be an angel." You know, that quote, something similar to that. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Strangers, maybe an angel. And then I go into a bookstore and I randomly select one book in the cheap pile. You know, they sell books for $2. I pick one up and open up, and that's the same page I come to. That's a big quote for the book. Same exact quote from the Bible, and I'm going, wow, that's twice now I got this. What's going on here? So I'm at work a few days later, and in the middle of my work day, and it's a rainy day, and I just tell my boss, I'm going home. And nobody says, why? How come? You're gonna want to leave? No, I just walk off the job. You know, it's like, I go home. I just felt it was time to go. It's like the alarm went off. Go get this, you gotta go. So I go, and nobody questioned it. I get in my car and I'm driving down Highway 99 from Sacramento, and I see this young man. Turns out he's 22 years old. He's standing alongside the road in the rain. He's just drenched. He's got socks on his hands for gloves. He's got a t-shirt, and all his clothes are soaking wet. And he's got like a Scooby-Doo, what I call Scooby-Doo beard, you know, a couple of hairs hanging out, you know, like you can't really grow a beard. And he looks terrible. And I gotta pick up this guy. So I don't pick up hitchhikers often. And that's the last hitchhiker I ever picked up. So I stop. He says, where are you going? He goes, I'm going to Texas. Well, I'm only going 5 miles down the road, but I'll get you started. So he gets in the truck, and he smells, and he's dirty, and he's filthy and everything. And he starts telling me a story about, he was a foster kid, and then at 18 they turned you out, so he went to his grandma's house, and then she died, and he had no place to go, so he was trying to go to Texas, hitchhike to Texas and find his father, so he had a place to stay, and he had no money. I said, okay. I said, before you go hitchhiking the rest of the way, let's stop at my house, give you some lunch and stuff. So I pull into my house, I take him into the bathroom, I hand him a towel, shower, because he's just grubby. I said, shower. Leave your old stuff out here, right? So he's showering, I make him this big lunch, I get some money for him, I get a backpack, I put camping gear in it, and flashlights, and a coat, and a sweater, and a hat. I give him everything, a bag. Here's a guy who's going to be a bum on the road, and he has anything to bum with. And I put food in there and everything. So he comes out, and he's just looking at me, he's staring at me, he's talking to me. I said, what's going on? He says, last night, he says, I was sleeping along the road, and it was raining. I had no tent, and my sleeping bag got soaking wet, and I had to throw it away, and I was chilled. And he didn't have very good vocabulary, but what he was trying to say was he was very despondent and depressed. And he wanted to throw it all in. He had it. That was the end of it. That was it. Basically, he was going to commit suicide. That was it. He says, but then a man that looked exactly like you, and then I stopped him. I said, let me give you something first. So I opened up the drawer, and I gave him a pack of sugarless gum that was half used, and I put it in his hand. I said, some people say I'm psychic. I'm going to give you this, and this will affirm what you already know and believe. And he looks at it, and he starts breaking down, bawling. He says, well, it's exactly what the guy in my real life dream did last night. He gave me the same exact thing. And he started crying. And then the man told me, and I stopped him, God loves you. And then he broke down again, because that's exactly what the man in his vision told him. Anyway, so my daughter was there watching all this going, like, what's going on here? So by the time he got back on the road, he was ready to roll, and I prayed for that man every day for over 20 some years. God bless him on his way. But I think I was supposed to be there to help him. I was supposed to be there to encourage him. And somehow, he saw me in a vision the night before. I have no recall of that, which is interesting because I got a lot of stories like that. But it saved his life. Now, 2 weeks later, I get a call out of the blue on my telephone from a group home for foster kids. What is all this about? One of the kids there I was mentoring, and so they knew of some teenage girl, this black girl, 17 years old, was having trouble, and her father was trying to kill her and everything, and she was homeless and needed help and everything, and this person running the home, the social worker running the home, is calling me to ask what to do, and I'm going, she's a professional, so I'm thinking, anybody calling me at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, there's something weird here, I'll take care of it. I said, well, what's the address of this girl? I'll go look it up. So I go there, and I already know I got a bad address. It was apartment 2, but there was like 50 apartment buildings. So just had to be 2 cops sitting in a parking lot. So I pulled up next to them. I said, hey, look, you don't know me. Here's my ID. I'm not a crazy guy. I'm here to find this girl that's, her life's threatened and she needs a place to stay, blah, blah. So they went on their computer, found a couple possibilities. They went door to door, knocking on all the doors until they found her. So she gets in my truck, my pickup truck, and we're driving away. And she was kind of like a savant, spiritual savant. In other words, she had the concepts down, not the vocabulary. She was more cartoonish and she was more simple, but a loving heart. So she gets in the car and I'm going, aren't you a little afraid to be driving with me? I'm a strange man. You just get in this car, I'm going to drive to my house. She goes, no, because I've been dreaming about you all my life. I said, okay, fine. So we get to the house, she sits on the couch, my wife's going, what's going on here? And so she's sitting there. And pretty soon, she's sitting on one end of the couch. The other end of the couch, there's a cat. And in the middle, it indents down, it goes, and the cat's like this. And I'm watching this. And she looks over there and says, there's somebody sitting there. I go, yeah, I know. So we just keep talking. And then the next day she gets up. And you don't know this because I haven't talked about it on film, but my personal spiritual messenger is an owl. An owl will come flying, a real owl, or picture an owl, or a stuffed owl, or an owl ceramic statue, whatever, an owl. So she wakes up in the morning and she calls me in there. On her leg, embossed, like when you sleep on sheets and fold lines will be on your skin? On her thigh was the outline of an owl, just like she laid on this thing, and there it is, an owl. And she was just. So she eventually had to go and everything. I said goodbye to everything, and I kind of wondered why she came to my life, but she was so trusting in everything. So I was telling this story in Chicago for Holly Campbell, well, actually on the phone to Chicago. Holly was doing a radio interview with me, and then in between, when she took a break, I said, these crazy people keep coming to me all the time that, I'm in their house or I'm doing this for them and that. And she goes, that's not so crazy. She says, I saw you too. I go, wow, what's going on here? Anyway, so periodically I have people coming to me over the years that they claim that I came to them, I visited them, I gave them advice, I helped them, I changed their life, and all I know is I just slept through the night. So I had this question when I went down to Southern California to visit a friend. How can that be? How can I be helping people and not remembering it? So I'm laying in bed, and he's got a sliding glass door to the backyard, and I'm in his guest bed. It's a big queen-size bed. And I see a figure standing there. It's about 3 or 4 in the morning. And I look up, and there's somebody, it's a shadow of a man standing right there, at the window. And instead of being like, oh my God, there's a bad guy, I just looked at it and thought, or if that's my friend coming, he got kicked out of his bedroom or something, I don't know what's going on. No fear, no nothing. Sliding glass door opens. This dark figure walks in. I slide all the way over the other side of the bed. I throw the sheets over, throw a pillow over. I said, yeah. And then this body gets in the bed and slides right over into my back. And my kundalini goes, it was like a charged electricity. And there's nobody there. And I thought for a while, I go, wow, that was me. That was somehow the other me that's going out there helping people coming back. And it was clear, except trying to explain that to somebody is insane, because it's insane, but it happened. And so periodically I have these weird things that defy time and space, and that's just another one of those things. But these things happen to me weekly, monthly, daily, pretty regularly. So consequently, there's no real great one thing that ever stands out, because there's a lot of things. And if nothing else, I become in my life as a great believer in my own intuition, and so I trust myself. And I keep getting rewarded with these events. And again, they're not just for me. They're for whoever watches this, whoever listens to me, whoever I share them with. I had an interesting thing happen to me in Southern California, in Los Angeles. And I captured the essence of the story in a chapter called Amazing Grace. It deals with me going to Southern California to a convocation with a religious group. And I'm there with a friend, and we just got through dining at a restaurant, and we're walking back to the hotel. And there's this crazy guy in the street. This crazy guy is yelling and everything, and he's yelling at my friend. And he comes up to my friend in his face, and he points at him and he says, I don't remember the exact dates, but it was something like February 13th, 1956. And my friend just goes. And I go, what's that? He says, that's my birthday. And I said, oh, okay, let's cross the street. So we cross the street, and across the street there's this old black guy. He's standing there, and he's kind of grizzly looking, and he's got dirty fingernails, and he's kind of shabby, and he's got his music case opened up with some coins and money in it. And he's got this saxophone. And I walk up to him and I go, will you play something for me if you take requests? And he goes, try me. And I said, do you know Amazing Grace? And he goes, well, not really, but I'll give it a try. And he starts playing this song. It's a jazz version of Amazing Grace, if you can imagine such a thing, with a sax. And it is so beautiful. And the sounds are bouncing off the buildings in Los Angeles. This is right next to the metro station where people come up out of the subway. And all of a sudden I look around and the traffic is stopped. People have stopped the cars that got the windows rolled down to listen to this. People in the crosswalks have stopped. Nobody's paying attention to the traffic lights. People coming up from the subway are all stopped, looking, watching, listening. And I'm just going, wow. And I'm looking around at everybody. Then I'm looking at him. And this old dirty black guy is kind of radiant, kind of ebony, just glowing. There's a quality about him that's changed. He's got softer. You know, that old dirty street look is soft. And he gets through playing, and I just go, wow. So I put some money in his box, and I said, play it again as we walk away, right? Because I was just so beautiful, and he plays it. And I just go, wow, that's the greatest Amazing Grace I've ever heard. I was moved. So me and my friend talked about it. I got on the airplane, I talked about it, I got it back home. So I called up my daughter and I said, hey, I had something really exciting happen to me. She goes, was it on Thursday? I go, yeah. And I started talking. She goes, was it at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? I go, yeah. Okay, I'll bite. What happened at 1 o'clock in the afternoon for you? She said, well, me and my boyfriend were driving around and we're trying to find a country and western station on the radio. And we come across this beautiful playing of Amazing Grace, musical version. And so we pulled off the road into a parking lot so we could listen to it because it was so moving. I go, wow. So I told her what I experienced. And so she says, I got to come over. I got to take my car someplace. You got to give me a ride. So she comes over. We hop in my truck. And we're driving over to pick up her car. And I turn on the radio. Amazing Grace is playing on the radio. I mean, we didn't go through another song first, news, none of it. It's just first random station we hit, there it is playing. Boom. Amazing Grace. So that's one of those little things you go, wow, that's really sweet, but in a way it's supernatural. I mean, it's like, what's the odds of my daughter hearing the same song I'm listening to in Los Angeles, 400 and some miles away, on a radio station? And what's the odds of us hearing it together just after we talked about this? I've never turned on and got Amazing Grace on my radio ever again, randomly ever, unless I play it myself. But it was one of those experiences that I shared with my daughter, and I've shared a lot of experiences with my daughter that helped bond us together, father and daughter. That's just one of them. I'd like to share a story about an accident that my daughter had in high school, her sophomore year. She wanted to borrow my Suzuki Samurai to go driving with her friends, and she's asking me to take the car, and I'm looking at the television news at that time, and on the television news, they got an ambulance, they got a fire truck, they got police. They're talking about some accident the night before in Sacramento. And I said, look at that. I said, that's what I'm seeing in my mind. I said, I don't want to have that. I don't want to have you call me at midnight tonight, and have to go to a scene like that with a helicopter and everything. Oh, Dad. I said, no. And I said, then I don't want you driving. So I'm not going to lend you the car. Go with someone else. And here's the warning I gave her. I said, whatever car you're in, you make sure everybody in that car has their seatbelt on. I said, no, I'm serious about that. She goes, oh, Dad. I said, no, everybody has to have a seatbelt on. Okay. So that night, at about midnight, I get that midnight phone call from one of her friends. Mr. McDonald, your daughter's been in an accident. There's fire trucks, there's ambulance, there's a helicopter down here, there's all kinds of stuff down the end of Elk Grove Boulevard. Maybe you better get out here. So I already have these visions in my mind and everything, so I get out there, and there's the friend's car that she was in, and it's upside down. And it's all tangled up in this barbed wire fence out in the country. And there was 4 girls in it, 4 young girls. One was knocked unconscious, and she was unconscious for several days, long period of time. And the other one had a broken neck and became quadriplegic, and she was only like 14, 15 years old. And I found out neither one of those 2 girls were not wearing seatbelts. They were in the back seat. My daughter, who was wearing a seatbelt, was upside down and had to undo herself to let herself out, and the driver was hanging on the steering wheel. But she told me after the accident, so she told me, Dad, I told everybody, I told them all. She said, but they laughed at me. She said, I told them, my dad said you better wear your seatbelts. You better wear your seatbelts. And about 2 to 3 minutes later, they got in a crash. And it flipped over 3 times, and it was really bad. So there was a lot involved with this accident, but what was really strange later on, talking to some people afterwards, was that the father of the driver, who lived in Texas at the time, one of the neighbors said that the father of the driver had come to their door, knocked on the door, and told them to call the police department for the accident, and described him to a T. And somebody saw him standing out there by the accident site. The fact was, he was still in Texas. So that was a little piece of the story we found out afterwards. We're going, wow. Because he identified himself as a father, and he got the police to come. It's because it was a farmhouse. So that was a little interesting. That was just something else I shared with my daughter, but she listens to me now, because there's times where she hasn't listened to me. When she was, right after that, she was going to a party in Sacramento, and I said, I don't feel good about you going to that party. Oh, Dad, it's just invited people. I said, no, I don't want you there. Dad. I said, okay, if you go to the party, you have to leave at 11 o'clock. Not 11:05, 11 o'clock. Promise me. Okay, 11 o'clock. And I says, in a nice car you got out there, I said, I don't want to see it all smashed up or something. Okay, Dad. So at 11:20, I get a call. She was at a party, and it got crashed by some people that weren't invited, and they had baseball bats, and they smashed up all the cars in the neighborhood, and her car included, and the cops were all there and everything, and she was all upset. And I said, what time did this happen? She goes, about 5, 10 after 11. I said, what time did I tell you to leave? 11 o'clock. Yeah. So that's my daughter.